Imagine this. You're 30,000 feet in the air, cruising above the clouds, in what feels like the safest environment possible. A modern airplane. Passengers are sipping coffee, watching movies, or dozing off under cozy blankets. You probably haven't given much thought to the person or people in charge up front in the cockpit. But what if, at this very moment, the pilot is asleep? Shocking? Yes? Uncommon? Not exactly. And here's the thing. Airlines know this happens more often than you'd think. But before you panic, there's a lot more to this story, and it just might change the way you think about air travel forever. Over the next few minutes, we're going to pull back the curtain on something the aviation industry has been tight-lipped about for years: pilot fatigue. From real-life incidents to the systems designed to prevent disaster, we'll explore exactly what happens when exhaustion sets in behind the controls of an aircraft. Why is this happening? And more importantly, who's keeping us safe when human limits are pushed to the brink? Stick around, because what you're about to learn might change how you feel every time you board a flight. A growing threat at 30,000 feet. Pilot fatigue isn't just a modern inconvenience, it's a growing crisis. Think about it. Pilots often work grueling schedules, flying through multiple time zones in a single day. Sleep cycles? Forget about it. Many of them operate on borrowed energy, caffeine, and adrenaline. Now slap on a few additional layers of stress. Airline schedules are tighter than ever due to a global surge in air travel. Crew shortages mean fewer breaks during the day. And with more red-eye flights on the roster, pilots are not just tired, they're often sleep-deprived. A 2022 survey revealed that 62% of pilots admitted to feeling pressure to fly even when they were too fatigued. And here's a fact that might surprise you. Some pilots have confessed to nodding off in the middle of a flight, accidentally. The aviation world doesn't want to talk about this, but we will, and we'll dig into the systems designed to deal with human fatigue. Because at the end of the day, human limits don't just disappear, no matter how advanced our airplanes may be. Autopilot and the illusion of safety. You've probably heard about autopilot before, right? It's often presented as this infallible, high-tech system that practically flies the plane itself. And it's true, autopilot is an incredible innovation. It handles most tasks during cruise, freeing up pilots to monitor systems or make adjustments. But here's the catch. It doesn't eliminate the need for a vigilant pilot. See, autopilot is really good at holding course. It keeps the plane steady, handles weather, and even adjusts altitude when needed. But what happens in an emergency? What if a sudden engine failure occurs, or the plane deviates due to unexpected turbulence? These are scenarios where human decision-making is critical. And if the human in charge is asleep or too exhausted to think clearly, that window of time to respond shrinks dramatically. While technology is a fantastic safety net, it's still just a net. The risks increase when fatigue clouds judgment, slows reaction times, or worse, leaves no one awake to react at all. The truth is that autopilot can only do so much. The pilot is, and always will be, the heart of the operation. And when that heart is tired, mistakes happen. Quick question. Have you flown on a red-eye before? It's one of those flights where most passengers snooze through the night. But next time, consider this. Your pilot has been flying the same exhausting hours. If this leaves you curious or even concerned, stick with us. Because things get even more eye-opening when we explore what happens when pilots intentionally rest mid-flight. Now here's a term you might not have heard before: controlled rest. Sounds official, right? But what does it really mean? Controlled rest is a procedure that allows pilots to take a short, strategic nap during flight. Typically, these naps last about 10 to 40 minutes, and they're carefully coordinated so only one pilot sleeps while the other remains awake. Why does this exist? Because fatigue has been recognized as such a huge problem that structured sleep is considered safer than fighting exhaustion. But can it backfire? Unfortunately, yes. There have been multiple incidents where both pilots accidentally fell asleep. Yeah, both. One high-profile case occurred in 2013 on an international flight. It was later revealed that prolonged fatigue led to both crew members dozing off while the airplane cruised on autopilot. Thankfully, the plane landed safely, but it sent shockwaves through the industry. Controlled rest might be a solution, but it's far from foolproof. And it raises the question, why do pilots need to nap in the first place? Shouldn't airlines prioritize better schedules and rest periods for their crews? It's not just about technology. It's about pushing the boundaries of human ability. And every time airlines focus on profits over rest, they're increasing the risks. BTW. If you're learning something new or finding this topic as important as we do, now's a great time to consider subscribing to our channel. We tackle topics like this regularly, breaking down complicated issues into stories that matter. Pilot fatigue isn't an abstract concept. There are real stories, some tragic, that illustrate what happens when exhaustion overtakes the cockpit. One of the most infamous examples happened in 2009, involving an overnight cargo flight. The pilot had just 5 hours of sleep in the previous 24 hours due to unrelenting schedules. Every indicator of fatigue was showing: slow reaction times, unclear communication, and missed checklist items. Tragically, this flight ended in disaster due to an error in judgment during landing, claiming the lives of everyone on board. And what about near misses? Fatigue doesn't always end in catastrophe, but there have been countless instances where autopilot systems saved the day, or where a quick-thinking co-pilot caught a mistake just in time. Each story reminds us that human performance has limits. And when we ignore those limits, the consequences can ripple far beyond the cockpit. Does this make you think twice about your next red eye? If so, you're not alone. But the goal here isn't panic, it's awareness. If pilot fatigue is such a well-documented issue, why isn't it being solved? One reason is economics. The airline industry is under immense profit pressure, with razor-thin margins. Tight schedules and long workdays mean more flights and more revenue. But at what cost? Unions and regulatory bodies have pushed for change, but progress is often slow. Pilots are urging for mandatory rest periods, reduced flight hours, and better monitoring of fatigue levels. Some countries have made strides, while others lag behind. And here's where you come in. Passenger awareness is key. The more you know, the more you can push airlines to be transparent and accountable. Flying is safer today than it's ever been, but there's no room for complacency. Technology can support us, but there's no replacement for a well-rested, alert pilot. CTAs, if this story struck a chord, consider sharing this video. It's an important conversation and one that needs more voices. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Together, we can uncover the stories that matter most. At the end of the day, pilot fatigue is about more than just air travel. It's a story about human endurance, responsibility, and the systems we rely on to keep us safe. The skies are vast, but the challenges in aviation remind us that every flight and every person in that cockpit represents a delicate balancing act. The next time you're buckled into your seat, 30,000 feet above the earth, take a moment to appreciate what makes modern flight possible. And maybe, just maybe, remember this story. Because while the skies may seem endless, human ability is not.